Today we're sitting down with Winky Moon, yogi, herbalist, Ayurvedic and elemental medicine practitioner, and founder of Cocoon Room, a space in which, through self-care systems and tools such as pulse, tongue readings, bodywork, and a plethora of herbs, you'll get a feel for what's actually running through your veins. Were the hipsters trying to tell us something when almost every song written mentioned home in it about 50 times? Regardless, I think we've all known for quite a while now that this has been a long time coming. Home, not in the sense of having a roof over your head, but being comfortable in your own bones. And we want that roof over our head. We want to live under our roof. And boy, is that hard to do these days. If you don't have something, well, honey, you're bound to get it. I found Winky because of her Gua Shas and stayed for, well, all that she is and shares. Let me tell you, this lady's a firewater, etherair, belly breather, flows like a yogi, plays like a child, loves her horses as much as I do, and truly lives from the inside out. And she reminds us that this vessel we're in is one of joy and strength and courageous beauty for all that it gives. If there's one thing I've taken away from this episode, if there's one thing that I'm just, preaching to myself every single second of every single day, it's to protect your Calcifer. If you know, you know, and if you don't, well then I'd say Netflix has been taking up way too much of your time. #Haramizaki. This is Entertaining the Absurdity with Winky Moon. A quick heads up, we're dealing with an overseas conversation here, so the audio may reflect this. Coming to you from California in Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
Well, I guess I'm constantly trying to undefine myself. My profession, I guess I'm just kind of like a general witch. I'd say it's, I don't know, I'm like an artist, healer type person. I run a Cocoon Room, and I work with people and all their bodies. I also work with animals and the earth.
What does an elemental lifestyle mean to you? Because looking at your work and your social media and your platform, that's something that comes up a lot. And I think just encapsulates exactly what you just said there with what you work with, the resources that you're pulling from. So what does an elemental lifestyle mean to you?
I think that for me, an elemental lifestyle is just not really viewing things as so separate, it's really like an engaged participation with the world. I think it's recognizing the elements that are present outside of our bodies and inside of our bodies, and the qualities of those elements and how we can work to balance that and just observe and be curious,
And how does one come upon their elemental constitution?
Well, it's interesting, yeah. Everybody's, everyone's different. There's the structure of I'm working with ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And everyone is more dominant in one element, and then they have a secondary and a stable, which is sort of like their foundational root of health. And then with that, there's all kinds of personality things that go along with it. And, if there's one place you're more likely to go out of balance, say, ever since you were a kid, you always got skin rashes or dealt with a lot of inflammatory symptoms, that's going to let me know that the primary place you go out of balance is your fire element, which is also, when you know that, you can work it and make it your biggest strength. So it's just recognizing just sort of what magic we have, and what medicine we're bringing to the world. I don't know, is the way that I sort of tell if somebody's constitution is through their pulse, just the energy that they bring in the room, signs on their tongue, their face, reading the tissues. There's just so much that goes into it. It's really just taking in like a whole person and on so many levels.
Could you give an example of this? Because say I really wanted to touch on pulse and tongue readings, and I've only heard people's experiences through having gone to a practitioner, especially here in Europe, and they had a reading that usually lasted around 5 to 7 minutes, based upon the Veda Pulse, which is a software module which was originally developed in Russia. But it's that takes the traditional medium of pulse and tongue readings and has just basically translated it into a software. How do you work with something similar to this, or do you still keep it very traditional?
Yeah, I'm pretty traditional. I've studied Ayurveda for the past 5 or 6 years now. It's not all that I'm informed by. I was really also taught by my grandmother, who had a background in Western herbalism. But yeah, when I'm getting on somebody's pulse, I'm reading 3 pulses, the fire and water, the ether and air, and the water and earth. And each of those pulses in Ayurveda has seven layers, and the foundational layer is somebody's birth pulse, so the way that your blood was flowing through your veins when you took your first breath. My teacher, I've heard her call it someone's blood song, which I think is really beautiful. And my background is really in like visual arts and stuff too. So when I'm reading somebody's pulse, like I'm feeling also in music. So it's like when I'm reading someone's pulse, I'm like feeling the rhythms on these different positions and layers, seeing the quality of the rhythm and just kind of the energy that brings up for me, and checking with the client to see if that resonates. And sometimes images come forward, or I'll be like, ooh, that rhythm kind of reminds me of this animal, and thinking about the energy of that animal. And with these sorts of things, there's symptoms associated with these rhythms, and depending on where I find it, I can get a little Nancy Drew with my client and really track down some acute or chronic dis-eases, so it's just something that's throwing us out of balance, creating less ease in our life. And thusly, always inversely, that's where we can see where we can really work something and turn it into somebody's greatest strength.
And have you found that the results always resonate with the client, or have there been cases where they felt like it didn't align with who they felt they were? What are usually the next steps to helping the client kind of formulate that next step?
Well, yeah, the client, usually it's interesting because I'm never trying to give someone a story that's not theirs. I'm always just like, I'm just throwing this stuff out here. You tell me what you think. This is what I'm witnessing. And so it really is a dialogue, and it's like I'm going on this journey with the client to sort of see what's right for them. There's always times where I'll be like, I'm, feeling this, and it's really like an interesting exercise in like discerning like, oh, is this like my energy or is this the client's energy? And just making sure that the space is really clear to just like go in and really direct me like, okay, I'm on level 3 on the ether and air finger. I'm just seeing like what this person's energy is like, or I'm in the fire and water position, seeing their waste product, or I'm in the water and earth, checking their fluids. It's pretty easy to just get on someone's pulse and be like, if they're really spun out, like I'm gonna feel like they're under their vata finger. It's like a tree that's just gotten all of its leaves blown off, and it's just like shaking there. I'm like, and I can check with them and say like, wow, like this is what it feels like on your pulse, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I've been like just getting like blown around like every which way. And I'm like, wow, yeah, this stuff is really present for us.
How did you first learn how to read someone's pulse?
Well, I've been studying under Deanna Batdorf here in Sebastopol for 5 or 6 years now. And it's really, it's kind of a dying art in a way, because a lot of the really, really traditional practitioners, they'll read like a couple levels, or they'll be reading for like a push or a block on the pulse. But really getting into like all 7 levels, and actually I just, in Tibetan, they have 14 levels. So, it's really just like honing your craft, trusting your intuition, just using your powers of observation, really, like witnessing just different things outside. And like, when I'm working in the garden, I'll just like be like, oh, the dirt feels like this today. And then I'll be on somebody's pulse and I'll be like, wow, it feels like how my dirt felt in the garden the last Thursday or whatever. You know what I mean? And then I'll just like track back to my body, see what was going on in the weather, like all that stuff, how it was all affecting, everything's connected.
That's beautiful. I mean, you're highly observant. So where does this need to explore, rather than using the word wellness, but really just a balanced lifestyle, come from, and sharing that with and treating and healing others?
Well, through my own journey of trying to find balance, I've always been struggling to, and really finding so much power and insight through that struggle, to just heal the ways our twisted world twists us up, and the words of one of my good friends, Bree White, she really reminded me, it's really hard not to get twisted up when we're, here in the States, working with, everywhere, there's just so much injustice, and it really takes a toll on our bodies, our earth, our body is the earth, and just, I guess through my heartache, I really found my love and my passion to just be in this body and be in my life and relate to the natural world and just really feel here. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Also, I feel just being an artist, and having a toe in many different realms, I'm all right, let's bring it all together. And this work really was this is how you do that.
Yeah, quickly touching on your illustrations as well. I mean, that's an entirely different aspect that I've seen within your practice. And what's up with the illustrations? I would love to know the story behind them and the characters and how that has a role to play.
Well, I've always just used art as a means to heal myself also, and it feels like language to me. I went to art school. My grandmother was an artist and always encouraged me to use my voice in that way. And for me, really excavating my internal world and just exploring, not really excavating, more just exploring and seeing what symbols want to be worked with. It really teaches me about, all right, this stuff's universal. Let's bring it together. Yeah. I don't know, it's always, it's interesting because I don't like talking about art. That's why I just use it to heal myself. That's why I am an artist, but it's more just I don't know, a bodily function.
And it sounds like you, from early on, had a support system within your family, or from your grandmother at least, and that she really allowed for that space for you to gain that connection and really cultivate that connection with your gut and intuition. And what was some of your earliest memories come from with like that gut and intuition? Can you like kind of navigate it back to a certain event, or on a conscious level, how have you found it to be present in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me sit with that for a second. I think it's always just been kind of like a self-preservation. Maybe not. Maybe it's, yeah, I think initially it was sort of a self-preservation because there was a lot of sort of things hidden from me in my childhood. And so I really like became very interested in truth. My grandma was always like a huge support to me, but and my mom, but there was like just so much craziness. I was like, all right, what's true? And I just saw the adults like didn't really know what was going on. My grandma had a hold on it, but I wasn't with her all the time. So I really think that through like struggle, I found strength and, have developed tools to protect myself. And then I didn't need that protection anymore. So I'm like, all right, what is this for? And, I still like do need protection, and some like in this world, it's crazy, but I feel like, it's not really about that anymore. It's like more just about creating just more beauty and truth to be seen and revealed. It's like there's just so much, and it gets just so covered up with crap. I'm like, okay, let's just peel back the layers here, guys, and see what's actually going on. And then it's like, you pull the Scooby-Doo mask off the thing, and it's like, it's just this. It feels so much more manageable. I don't know. It's kind of a roundabout answer.
No, I mean, how do you peel those layers back? How do you get, if you're kind of hazy in your head and you're just having one of those off days, you're just trying to get to, you're just trying to like get a read on your intuition, how do you do that?
I guess through the breath, really. Like, the breath, I feel like, is our first food, and I really just want to be able to like sink into my animal body, like nourish it, feel like just my instincts, and like be like, all right, like what smells am I smelling? Like what, just really be in my physical body. The physicality of it, like, is really what it's all about. I feel like there's like so much stuff that throws us out, but it's like really it's just about coming home. Like, we are our home.
Oh, breathing is something I struggle with a lot as well, especially when you feel like people who have the office job, or they're either freelance or just a job that is not about moving about too much and really utilizing the body physically. Losing that connection with the belly and breathing with the diaphragm, it's hard. So do you find that you have clients, or just looking at people in general, that we've kind of lost that ability to just breathe properly, more so now than ever? Do you find that?
Yeah, I do. I feel like that's the main thing that I find. It's like I'm just, there's so many things, and then it just comes back to the breath, really. I mean, as kids, we're told to like suck it up, and like, what do? It's like we just hold it in our guts right there, and that's our seat of health. That's our sun center that needs to be radiating, and warming our body. So it's like when we're in these contracted states, we're just like shutting down the breath, like our head is turning in, we're like sending ourselves straight into a fight or flight response. It's too much. So when I find clients that are working with something like that, a remedy that my teacher gave me that is like been revolutionary is like when I feel like I'm floating off into the ethers or something, it's like I just go and I get a big rock and I put it on my belly and I lay down, or I'll warm it up in the oven or something, or in my crock pot, put a towel on my belly, maybe some castor oil, and then I'll just put that big rock right on my belly and just hold me down on this earth, please. And I just really breathe into the belly and lift that rock and just feel my power expanding from there. And then when I surrender, I can just really feel that rock just coming down and like untying all the knots that have been tied up for decades or whatever, just these learned holding patterns.
And so, say if someone is in an office, what's more of a tangible and feasible step for them to take?
Well, I feel like it's really like engaging in these practices like when we have downtime, so it's like the memory is stored in the body. When we're in the office, because then it's like when we're in the office, we know like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm not taking a breath. Like that space that I created with that rock last night feels more contracted. You know, if we're just in these patterns, we don't even recognize it because our bodies are just so stuck there. You know, it's like that's the work of the practitioner or like the work of the practice to teach us, you know, how to feel in these new ways. I think when you're in the office, you know, after doing, you know, being in your practice or whatever, you can be like, oh, I'm noticing like my shoulders are really like tight and I'm crunched over a keyboard and my like sacrum's all just messed up from sitting in a chair and like all this stuff. It's like just taking a second, feeling like even just thinking about that, I'm like, I just had to take a breath. I'm like, that's too much. But just like taking a break, like just, you know, doing a little walking meditation as you go to the bathroom or go to the water cooler or whatever, you know, and being like, all right, I'm going to do my little walk over to the cooler. I'm going to walk back to my desk, just reciting this stuff to yourself. So, you know, you're like, oh, I'm breathing in a long breath. I'm breathing in a short breath. And just like, really like when we're exhaling too, pushing the breath down into the root. Because a lot of the time when we're noticing that we're not breathing, we bring the breath up really high in the diaphragm, which just heightens our energy and creates more anxiety. So I've been taught in yoga that it's really the emphasis in pranayama is on the exhalation, which just automatically draws in the next inhalation with a lot more ease and just so much more naturally.
And have you found that there are any benefits at all to chest breathing, or are there only drawbacks?
No, I think that all breath is good breath. I think that where you can feel the breath is where you can feel the breath. I think if you're feeling it and you're just noticing like, oh, my breath is here, like we can do practices with the breath of trying to manipulate it, or we can just observe it. So it's really just deciding what's up. And if you're noticing that you're not taking a breath, just being like, I'm noticing I'm not taking a breath. You know, just using our powers of observation, being here on this earth.
Yeah,
witnessing.
It's I remember even as a kid, in stressful moments, and I would pick up on it, or say my sister would say it, or just my peers in general. I just really remember it was almost kind of like a weird thing where people would be like, oh, I don't think I've been breathing for like the past like 30 seconds or so, and but even back then I just remember it being like, whoa, I didn't even notice it, and I just stopped breathing, like completely stopped, and you'd catch yourself, and it's crazy because even as a kid I had the most amazing childhood ever, but to think that even then it was still a symptom, it just blows my mind. But apart from breath, what other physical practices have you found have the most adverse effect on that gut and intuition connection?
Food. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
I made our self-care pyramid, and it's our foundational food is breath. And then we've got sleep, hydration, food, herbs, and outside support. But I think that, like, breath, our thoughts, just nourishing ourselves, like, food is important. I really, like, am all about the food as medicine model. And just looking at, like, also just, it's so fun and empowering to be, like, looking at the qualities of your food, seeing what elements they embody, seeing what energies they embody, like, what is, like, the shape of the grain remind you of, you know what I mean? Like, it can be anything, and if it's, like, you just start to refine this, like, this language within yourself where you're like, oh, that's wet and white, like, that's definitely, like, an earth water kind of food, or, like, that's, like, little, like, spicy red thing, like, that's a firewater food, like, oh, like, that little crunchy, like, spindly leaf, like, that's definitely, like, an ether and air food, like, and then thinking, like, okay, am I feeling like am I feeling like the leaf right now? Do I need some more grounding, like some more root vegetables, like wet white? Or am I feeling like I need to, like, stir up my fire a little bit? Am I feeling like a little, like, down in the bogs, you know? So I think that, like, just having that kind of, it's just really intuitive and, like, really fun. Like, food just becomes such a chore, I think. Like, and can be, like, it's going to our fire center to be digested, and then, like, that's, like, if you think about that radiating sun, like, that's light, like, that's inspiration. So really just trying to, like, I think, nourish ourselves on so many levels, like, nourish ourselves by the joy that's created when we're inspired by the food that we're cooking and eating, and also just, like, nourishing us on that deep physical level of getting proper nutrients. Like, our bodies tell us what we need, but we're just so, like you said, like, we stop and we're like, oh, I didn't even realize I wasn't taking a breath. We live in this, like, ether and air, fire and water dominant society, and we're just totally up, blasted out above our heads, and then we need, like, coming back down to the body. It's like, wow, like, I didn't even realize I was hovering over my body. I need to take a breath to come back down in here. It's like finding, like, the time to, like, take a breath and, like, come back down and, like, be in your body and, like, play with the, like, physical quality of your food, and, like, just also the emotional quality. It's like, oh, like, I look at this screen, it reminds me of, like, it has this smell, it reminds me of this time when I was a kid, or whatever, you know, like, really, like, all of those things are factoring into how we receive nourishment and how we are in our bodies.
Okay, so taking a quick pause, what would you currently want to eat right now? Like, intuitively, what are you drawn to?
Well, it's interesting right now because I'm preparing for 3-day Panchakarma retreat with my teacher, who's going to be doing 3 days of body work on me. There's food. I'm on a special diet right now. I've got a whole self-care protocol because we're really, like, stirring up the stuff for spring right now. So right now I'm on, like, and it's been feeling so good. Like, this winter I got so dried out. I did a big move, which is very, like, ether and air, like, you know, like, just air is all about change. So I'm having, like, tons of, like, really, like, my food is so wet I can't eat it off a plate. It's like everything's in a bowl. It's like very demulcent. It's got a lot of like spices because I'm like really trying to like just hydrate and also like activate. So yeah, I'm working with those like fire, water, and also earth and water elements. So, I mean, right now I'm sitting down with a big bowl of buckwheat and quinoa and oatmeal and a cashew milk I just made last night. My first time making that. I just got a Vitamix.
Oh, the Vitamix, yes.
I know, the infamous Vitamix. And I make a little golden milk powder, and I just stir that into some of my oats, so I'm getting my herbs that way. So I've just been on like soups and stews. I always say soup is the most important food group, but there's so many different ways you can spin it.
So this perfectly goes into my next question. What dosha are you?
I'm so much fire. I'm a fire water dominant. Ether and air secondary. With each sorry, my dog's got her toy. With each element there's a guna or rhythm that goes with it. And for my fire and water, I'm a pitta hot and vata subtle. So pitta hot's like really just like they're really like a team player. They're like kind of like the pressure cooker too. So they just like pile stuff on. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. and then they're like, oh, it's too much. And then they need to take a lot of space to just go back and like chill themselves out, cool down, like take a nap, that sort of thing. And then Vata subtles, they just want to play in the ethers, but they don't go too far away. They're like, all right, yeah, and they're like really aware like of everything around them, so they're almost like awkward because they're like sussing out like every little like composition and emotional dynamic and all the little subtle things happening in their space. Yeah, so they're like really energetically designed.
Yeah, I definitely get that from you. You're extremely observant. And it sounds like even as a kid, I mean, yeah. It's weird because I've had guests come on and it's like you have that high energy straight off the bat and it carries through in their voice and just, I don't know, even through the electronics, like you just feel the vibe. And with you, it's like I feel there's this resonating steadfastness. There's a grounding, and I can hear it's like in your voice, the essence of your voice. Yeah, and even the intonation and the way you talk and like the rhythm with which you speak, I just feel very calm. I feel very at peace right now. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's so sweet. I feel so confident now. Thank you. Yeah, I think that everyone's got a different medicine, you know, and it's all about just finding what yours is so you can really be in your medicine and like honor that and be confident in that and like serve that. I've been joking. My mantra's been just on the back of the hemp milk carton all month. It's just been chill and serve.
Oh my God. But so what, in working with your dosha, what rituals do you make sure that you just need to implement? When they can be monthly, weekly, or just in the everyday, but the ones that you're adamant on?
Oh, I'm all about my movement practice. I'm all about just staying in my flow, being in my body. I'm all about my food, my breath, my art practice, just being here, offering all these things that I've been cultivating and back to myself and to share them with others. for me, like being a pitta hot, bata subtle, like I could, there's negative and positive attributes, and it's like if we don't work our positive, then we fall out of balance. So and if we overwork our positive, then we just get burnt out. So it's like, it's really just being present and witnessing. It's like, all right, what am I feeling like right now? Like it's like it can be so much because like we're trained to just sort of like ignore that. We're taught that it's like not safe to be in our feeling body, and it's really like that's the key to our survival. It's pretty real. Yeah, I mean, I focus on nourishing and cooling and being in flow. Everything that supports that.
And when it comes to Cocoon Room and you're working with clients and you're doing yoga classes and just generally you're treating and like the treatment and healing of others, how do you balance being there and making space for others whilst keeping this flow within your own life? Have you found that to be a difficult thing to straddle, or does it come quite naturally?
Well, it's interesting because it's really like when I am like in a situation where I'm like, oh, I'm a little out of balance or something, it really just feels like an opportunity to just learn more about my practice. Like I always joke and I'm like, oh yeah, you don't want like a Chinese teacher that doesn't speak Chinese. Like inversely, like you don't want a healer type person that hasn't done a great deal of healing and is like still invested in that process. It's like it's an ongoing thing for everyone of just like, I mean, you're never going to be in balance and stay in balance. It's like I like to use the image of just like a circus performer like standing on a ball. It's sort of like, oh, like you're just a little step this way, a little step that way. It's always like a little dance happening. So it's good for me, like being a pitta hot, just knowing like, okay, like I need to tell this person that I can't work with them today because I've had this many clients this week and I need to take some time for me to do some self-care. But in that, like, I really try and have like one day out of the week where I just don't compromise, and I'll like make all my food, like do an enema, like do a salt scrub, like really like just chill, like begin my meditation, like work in the garden, just not talk, just be like in my body. And that's been like, that's what gives me the energy to do this. Really.
This going into your post that I kind of became obsessed with, and then it kind of led into a whole entire rabbit hole of Gua Sha, and then the psoas muscle, and then the pelvis bowl positioning, and it all just kind of like spiraled into a rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, I need to have you on and cover so many topics. But I definitely want to cover, first of all, Gua Sha and how this relates to the psoas muscle. Because I religiously Gua Sha every single day. I had no idea that it had an effect on something as deep as this muscle. I had no idea. I had never heard of this muscle before, but that it largely dictates the structure of the skeletal stability and its support. And yeah, I mean, if you could take us through that a little bit, what exactly the role of this muscle is, where it's situated, and I feel this just really goes back to breathing properly again, like how we can start engaging it.
Yeah, I think, well, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that was a post about doing some facial work with the Gua Sha. I think I was talking about the relationship between the jaw and the psoas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been told that the psoas is like the muscle of control that we use to try and like control our situation, and the jaw is the same way. If we're like feeling like a little like oh, we need to control something, like oftentimes there's a muscular holding pattern of like clamping down on the jaw, and then the shoulders get tight and the psoas gets tight, and it's just like a chain reaction, you know. In the same way of like things being like a chain reaction, the lymphatic system is like our first tissue, and there's the tissues are a chain. So the lymph feeds blood, feeds muscles, feeds skin, feeds bone, etc. The Gua Sha is an amazing little tool where, you know, we can use different oils specific to what we're trying to achieve, different depths, like rhythms, like just, you know, playing around. But we can really like break up stagnation in the lymphatic system so that our muscles can get the nourishment that they need. We can like release lactic acid out of the muscle and then flush it out through our digestive system. Like it's all, I mean, it's all, like I keep saying, I feel like a huge dork, but it's all connected. Like, and we have so much agency, like just with our own hands to like really heal ourselves, like, and each other. Like a Gua Sha is like so fun. Like you're just like, oh, like we're hanging out in the backyard. It's a beautiful sunny day. Like let's infuse some beautiful oils and like gua sha each other's backs. Like it's feels so good, and it's really liberating. Like you'll start to feel like when the lactic acid is like surfacing out of the muscle, it like feels like you're like scratching like the world's best, deepest itch. Like it's really like you're just getting like just all kinds of just really like trapped trauma out. Later. See ya. Bye. You know?
Don't need you.
Marie Kondo, like, just thank you. Bye.
I feel like this is also maybe something that people can take into consideration with concerns to human touch, and really reintroducing that into, or even introducing that into their lifestyle, because it's a dialogue. It's just an entire dialogue that we've lost. Like no one touches anyone anymore, even between, it doesn't have to be between a lover, but just, you know, a simple shoulder massage. So listeners, people, like just Gua Sha your friend, their neck or their back or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, friends that Gua Sha each other, friends that stick together.
Yeah.
There's so much, I mean, like we see, like there's just so much touch that isn't safe and that people experience. Like there's nobody talks about we're talking about consent now, finally coming back to touch and like making it safe and being like, all right, healthy touch, y'all, like giving yourself that healthy touch, like talking to people, being like, oh, like asking, be like, would you Gua Sha my back? Would you like help me like Gua Sha like this part of my butt or whatever? Like,
yeah,
it's hard.
Go for it.
It's hard to reach these spots. Realize like we're all in a body, like we're all in a body. Like this earth is holding tons of pain. We're also holding tons of pain. Like it's just there. Like we need to help each other.
This just goes right back to another thing, where say if you're not, okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. If it's touch that is something, I don't know, due to trauma, and that you're not necessarily comfortable with taking that step yet in inviting people into that space and allowing them to be there with you in that way, then I feel that touching yourself is so important, getting to know your own body and kind of breaking down that barrier between yourself. And this is where I was very interested in the way you talked about, you know, breast health and cystic breasts. Mm-hmm. And the lumps that we can have in our breast tissue, and that I didn't know that it was possible to massage and kind of, you know,
excrete a cyst out of someone's nipple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hardcore, like, but it's like, it's just true. It sucks that most people are like more comfortable like getting like a doctor to stick a needle in their boob and like put chemicals in them to like liquefy it and just just dumping it back into their, I don't know, like their lymphatic system. Like, it's just like, okay, like people are just so, because everyone thinks that everything's cancer, so people are afraid to find anything abnormal, you know? So it's like people don't even go in and like check it out, which just is so sad. I think like we need to be safe in our bodies to just like touch them and see like, okay, like what's that? Oh, what does it feel like? Oh, is it a little tender? Like, does it change if I like keep working on it a little bit? Like, things just change so fast if we just give a little attention. Like, our bodies are just like waiting for us to be like, oh, will you just do a little checkup? Will you just check this out? Like, you know, and it's like we finally like make the time. You're like, oh yeah, here, let me help you. And then it's, oh, thank you. But I've been holding this for so long. But yeah, the breast, like, that work it's pretty deep, and it's helpful to have a friend, because there is like some, if you are working with a cyst or something like that, like you really want to be like opening up the peripheral lymph around the area first, and then just finding the cyst, giving a little pump every day, like softening it, like checking in, be like, all right, how you doing, pal? And then eventually, like, you can work it out and secrete it through the nipple. Like, I had a video up on Instagram for like a few hours of me secreting a cyst out of one of my good friend's nipples, like out in like the glorious sunshine of the garden. It was like such a relief. It was like just so much that was just trapped in there for so long, just being like just a little pocket of inflammation. And it's like when we don't work those things, like they just get ignored and fester, and like that's actually something that we do have to worry about eventually, you know? So it's just like, let's just check it out and make sure that it doesn't get to a place where it's something like that's actually concerning.
Yeah, it's all about that preventative rather than reactive.
Yeah, totally. It's like, listen to your body when it whispers so you don't have to hear it scream. That whole thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I mean, you obviously have the experience and are trained within these practices, but with anyone who is hearing this for the first time, has never even really just given themselves a full-on boob massage, where do you turn to? Like, is this something you can really do yourself, or do you have to go? Yeah?
Don't be shy. It's your body. I think people need to trust themselves. Like, they're not, like, it's just your hands touching your body. You know, it's like, how bad are you going to hurt yourself with your hands touching your body?
Okay.
Like, you're not, you know? You're just not.
You heard of people?
Squish on your own boobs.
Yeah.
Just squish away. If there is something that you find that's like a little concerning, and it's not changing when you're working on it, that's when you want to go and you want to get like a thermography test or go see a doctor or something like that. But I think that for exploration, like that's gonna be the thing that actually keeps you safe, is exploring your own body.
I think this just goes right back to so many people, due to where we are in terms of health and the complete lack of awareness that we have surrounding food, movement, nourishment, and just as you said, just being in our body. The experience of actually having this physical vessel
and having fun with it.
Yeah.
Like, it should be really fun.
It should. But I feel
sensational. I mean, it'll be shitty too.
Yeah.
But usually if it's shitty, that's because there's a bunch of shit in there that we need to do some enemas for.
Yeah.
But your body's telling you what's up.
And just like getting to a place where we no longer have to relate touch or our physical human body with the term of betrayal. I feel so many people, touch is so, it's because it's an aspect that has been betrayed by so many. We've given that power to people, and it's had a negative outcome, and therefore like we have this consequence of like the backlash, and then just being in our body, we feel betrayed by our own bodies, but we don't have the proper tools or knowledge to take care of ourselves in the first place. So yeah, we need to have more fun.
Yeah, we're just like, we need to have fun. We need to just not really also not see our bodies as like so separate from our world, you know? Like, just look at like the plant in your backyard and being like, oh, is it getting what it needs? Like, it's serving this function in the garden, like, and we all serve our own functions in the garden. Like, it's really just like being willing to like get into the dirt, you know, like dig earth, dig it. It's groovy here.
Going back to the psoas muscle and just the whole entire, just generally supporting the body's natural movement patterns, because our way of life, bottom line, does not do that. It's like complete odds with the body's natural disposition. So have you found that even in the way our clothing is made, I just feel like
I know
it's wrong. Like, I don't even want to think about what our shoes are doing. But have you kind of consciously implemented a fashion style, like a fashion sense, or are there brands that you're aware of that manufacture garments with this kind of ethos in mind? Like, how do you do that?
Well, it's funny. I have a pair. I got this pair of silk pants in Chinatown for $1, and I love them. I bought like 10, 15 pairs of them. I'm just really into my loosey-goosey, elastic waistband, woo-woo kind of elementary school teacher style. I don't know. I'm really all about just like thrifting stuff, just putting something on and being like, ooh, does this feel good to my body? Can I move in this? Like, can I just drop down into a child's pose whenever I need to, kind of a thing? You know, seeing just how far you can take your clothes, you know?
I feel like a good basis is how far can I just stretch in this? Yeah.
Yeah, stretch it. I love natural fibers too. Like, I love just loose fitting natural fibers, because I want my skin to breathe, and I want to be able to move. I just, I'll try and put on like an outfit that's like cute, like theoretically cute, and then I'll like just feel so constricted. I'm like, I don't feel cute right now. I feel constricted. Sometimes it can feel cute to feel constricted, but it's like, make a choice that that's what you're doing. And like, maybe you're wearing something tight in a certain area of your body because you want to bring awareness to that part of your body, Yeah, just be nice to you.
I freaked when I saw one of your images, and I'm like, well, is this like the actual toxins in the fluid that has just been drawn out of the eye? And then it was the lukewarm ghee, and I researched more into it, and I was like, okay. But yeah, I just want to know how you were introduced to this. It seems so otherworldly. This is something that even people in my close friend groups who do very much practice a balanced lifestyle, this is still very woo-woo to them. So
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, what was your initial experience with this like?
Well, it's a traditional Ayurvedic treatment. I was introduced to it by my teacher. It's a treatment that saturates the 10 cranial nerves behind the eyeball to deeply nourish and soothe the nervous system. There's some like energetic things that it does too for the person. The eyes are seen as like the seat of fire, as like as in the way that they receive light, and image. And so them being like the windows into the person, there's just so many images that pass through that gateway, and I think a lot of the time gets stuck in our mind. So the netravasti is, in the form of trauma, and then our nervous system reacts because, like, we see these things. Our cranial nerves are right back there, which are governing our, like, nervous system responses. So with the ghee, I use a rose-infused ghee too, which, just beautiful qualities of the rose. Like, it's got this, like, protective thing and the soft with the thorns, and then the softness with the petals, and, like, that's really astringency. It's like traditionally it's been used to clean the eyes for forever. So, and then the ghee is like really just like deeply like penetrating, like nourishing, like so like hydrating. So the combination is really nice. But with the Natural we're doing like a dough dam, whole wheat flour, like a little donut around the eye, and filling it with this warm rose ghee. And then the person opens their eye in the water or in the ghee and looks around, does some big stretches with their eye. And it just allows the ghee to just totally, like, they just drink it in through their eyes. And I see, like, tons of stuff comes out of people's eyes, like bubbles and mucus and grit. A feather came out of my friend's eye the other day, which was really funny. I'm like, oh, I always knew you were a real angel. Somebody came to me and they're like from pretty far away, and they're like, I just knew I needed this treatment. And then they're like, a bunch of cat hair came out of their eyes.
Oh, dang.
Like, you knew.
Hairball.
And then, there's, after that, like, people, you just feel like a newborn. Your nervous system has just got this, like, reset button. You feel like you've just been, like, swaddled in just warm nourishment. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's hard for me to talk about right now because I'm getting, like, transported back to, like, being in that looking in through that golden light. It's like, yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. Like, especially for people that are, like, having, like, holding patterns with trauma, or, like, witnessed, like, traumatic things, to just get the reset nourishment and, like, just the satiation, because those nerves are kind of like, when they're not satiated or covered, they're a little electrical cord that doesn't have the rubber around it, just like sparking, like making a little fire. Like, it's so uncomfortable in our bodies.
It's essentially treating one of the five senses. And actually, in this case, it works very much like somatic body work, where it works on, say, the biopsychosocial spiritual state with regards to the information that we're assimilating via the senses. And have you found that there are any other forms of treatment that specifically target a sense like naturopathy?
Not that I know right now. I mean, I'd be curious to learn. I'm always curious to learn. Naturopathy is just, and it smells so good too. Like, you get, like, you feel like you're, I don't know, you feel like a cookie or something.
Oh.
Like, you're just like, it's like, there's some real sweetness to it too. So it's like going through, like, working this stuff, it brings some, like, real tenderness and literal sweetness to our visions,
And what was the first time that you did this yourself?
Like, where I received it?
Yeah.
When I was doing the clinical Ayurvedic program in Sebastopol at the Diana Center, my friend Madeline gave me my first naturopathy, who does full moon folk medicine. She's an amazing herbalist.
Whoa. And what did that bring up for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it was interesting because I was in such a different place. Like, I don't know if I was really, like, open in the way that I am now to, like, have understanding for what it was doing for me. But I remember we were in a class of, like, about 30 people, and we're all doing naturopathies on each other. And I had the most crap come out of my eyes in the whole class, so I don't know what that's about.
I mean, a whole class just going through that?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's a lot of newborn baby feels and baked cookies.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it was a pretty, like, mushy, like, lovey time.
Okay, well, I mean, we're closing out, and I kind of want to do a little quick, rapid fire question towards the end. But before that
That's fun.
I do want to ask just what like your immediate go-tos would be in terms of an intentional ritual for people who are just looking to cut through all the bullshit, like all the external noise. I feel like the wellness industry, in quotation marks, the wellness industry, it's given us back as to an extent the acknowledgement of one's health, but also it's definitely robbing us of our health. Like there's just so many products, there's so much noise. And so cutting through all of that, what would your advice be?
Well, just so you said a ritual to cut through the bullshit, I think I'm a huge fan of enemas personally. I don't like coffee enemas. I don't like them. I think it's like too much like rancid oil in the colon, not down. I love seaweed. I love seaweed. I love ocean medicine. I love seaweed. But I feel like we need to stop starving ourselves. We need to eat. We need to eat like 5 meals a day. And
I can get behind that.
you know, like I'm into Hobbit style, like 2 breakfasts, like embody your magic type. Um, like, I think that like there is like so much, like we have like so much chronic dehydration as a society. We really all just need to focus on getting hydrated, like really deeply hydrated. Spring is the perfect time for that because it's time to cleanse. But first, we need to really hydrate before any cleansing can happen. Like, y'all need to just knock off all this cleansing, depleting everybody. We're already like running ourselves dry, working too much. And like, everyone's like, I feel like a way to like radically like face some fear. Like I think the colon is the organ of fear too. So it's like an anxiety. Like, so we can face some fear, hydrate our intestines deeply, like slough out all this like dried up intestinal plaque. Like that's the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Quite literally.
Like, quite literally. Like, and I think that it's just like, I think it's like a really like, it's a really safe way to cleanse, you know, where we're not going to be depleting ourselves further. And, you know, we're just adding minerals and hydration and vitality to our gut, you know, that's our seat of health right there.
So in terms of hydration, I feel like a lot of people are going to think of, okay, I'm just going to drink a crap ton of water. But whole foods as well. Like, what hydrating foods would you recommend?
Well, you can like look at a food and see if it's more hydrating. Like you can see like the roots. Like if you think about like the structure of a plant and the way that it grows, the roots are the part that hold all the water, right? And then the stems too. They help the water to travel up to the leaves. So you can think about like just what parts of the plant are you cooking? Like how are you cooking it? Like you want to hydrate deeply. Like let's cook like a root stew, you know, like let's like really like sit in our root. I think like you can see if something is wet, like bok choy is like really, it's got like some real like wetness to it. Like I think, yeah, really like trusting your powers of observation, like, and trusting your guts, you know, like I love the name of your podcast. Like, you don't need to, I mean, it's great to read, like, and to feel inspired and curious about, like, everybody's different health perspectives and stuff, but, like, trust the primary witness, which is you.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Without our guts, we have no glory.
Yeah. There you go. Completely.
And where do you want to currently allocate more care to with regards to your own body?
Well, I mean, I'm about to go on this like 3-day healing journey with my teacher, so I'm sure I'm going to gain tons of insight through that process. But just in the process of preparing for it, I'm just noticing, like, you know, I thought I was hydrating myself, like, but it's so deep, you know, like we just really like sitting in that nourishment, like consistency, you know, like I also work with horses, and I just think that like just being like consistent and like making it almost like a little trap for yourself to like fall into your self-care, like yeah, like, and you know, sometimes not like skimping because it's like, oh, like it's a little expensive, like it's a little expensive right now for me to get the better food, like I'll eat the crappier stuff. And then it's like, well, now we're in a dang health crisis, and we have to pay all this money to get ourselves back on track, but probably could have just avoided that by just eating what we knew it was good for us in the first place.
Yeah.
honoring that truth.
And so for those who say, you know, it's I feel like there's the argument of, oh, I don't have a lot. I don't come from a privileged background. I don't know necessarily where to turn to in terms of like I can't go to Whole Foods. So you were telling me this, but what's a meal then? What's just a simple basic meal that I can make?
It's interesting because, yeah, when you're eating this way, it's actually a lot cheaper. You know, like just takes a little bit of like preparation, which is honestly the hard part, is like just looking out for yourself like that, and like sort of gazing into the future.
The Sunday meal prep is real.
It's super real. But you know, like I'm all about the bulk section. I'm not into like fad foods at all. Like I'm really into just like old, like kind of traditional style foods. And so much of that, it's like to get it the real way, like it takes a little time, it takes a little preparation, but ultimately it is so much cheaper, you know. And then you save yourself from being in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm running around my like town, like running errands, or I'm at work or whatever, and I need to go to a restaurant to buy food, and then it's like you're eating something that's like made with a bunch of table salt and cooked oil, and it's not made by somebody that's not getting paid enough money, so they're really stressed out while they're making it. You're absorbing like all of that energy and like all the stuff that's not even good for you, and you paid more money for it than you would have paid if you were just planning a little bit. So for me, I'm like, okay, this planning's like just, you know, I thought I was on it before, but I'm just getting to like a whole new level of like just having this be organized so that it's like just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and even they're touching on the intention with what your food has been made with. Like what energy you are absorbing, and that right there is just so key. And sitting down and intentionally being there when you're chewing as well. Just chew that to mulch before you swallow it.
Yeah, my teacher says chew your food 108 times. He also says chew your water 108 times.
Oh, dang. Well, I mean, I'm definitely a smoothie chewer.
Yeah, it's crucial. I don't know. Also, I'm really into just warm cooked food.
Yep.
That's my, I always just trying to tell my clients, like, some people I think raw is good sometimes, but kind of rarely.
It's so much easier to digest as well.
Yeah, it really is. And it just like, it feels good. It feels like, I'm home, I'm eating warm, I'm going to make it through the cold night.
A baked yam, nothing beats just a baked yam. It's like a hug. It's just a hug.
Yes, it really is. It is like a hug. That is a great way to put it.
Okay, and so your craziest wellness experience, what has that been?
My craziest wellness experience. I don't know what you mean by that.
I feel like you could look at the spectrum of, the very bougie wellness, which may not have a lot of substance to it, but at the time, it looked fun. It was a quirk to do, or something that was just crazy emotional. Like whichever one you relate to the most.
Well, I feel like every experience is like, it's all just kind of one, you know what I mean? Like, I it's like, it's all just informing. It's like if I had a negative experience, and I'm like, oh, well, that's not really my medicine. So it's actually like a positive experience because I learned like that wasn't the thing for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, I mean, there's just been so much crazy stuff that's happened. Like, I interned in the clinic at the Ayurvedic school that I went to, and there's just so much crazy stuff that happens in that clinic. Like, in the Panchakarmas, like, people puke up tapeworms and stuff.
Oh my.
You know? It's like, it's hardcore. But it's like, for me, it's nothing, because my grandma, like, she worked for this dermatologist in Beverly Hills when I was a kid, and so she'd just always come home with, like, horror stories all the time of people with, like, cysts with spiders coming out of them and stuff. So I'm like, this is just what happens to people. Adventure. I don't know. Is that... I mean, I'm going to tell you, there's crazy... You asked about crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just crazy stuff.
Your favorite product?
Oh, wow. My favorite product...
Well, we could go plural.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like, well, I like I don't know. Like, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm like really a product person so much. I guess I like Natural Call Magnesium. I'll do a product placement for them. I don't know. Like,
okay, we'll take it.
I really like my friend's medicine that they make. My friend Laura is an amazing herbalist, and all of her tinctures just taste so delicious, and she just like makes them with some real integrity. And also my friend Madeline, who has a studio in the same building as me, she makes some really beautiful medicine, and I feel really happy whenever I get to take that or share it with my clients. So I don't know. Talk to your local herbalists and see what they're working with, and talk to your local plants and see what they have to say.
And that leads to your ingredients, or specific plants or herbs.
I love Tulsi. Tulsi's like a hug too. I love spikenard or jatamansi. Rose. Rose will always be my favorite. Just so sweet. Hawthorn. I'm a big like heart medicine person. Like, and I just, you know, I love warming spices too. I love to be warm and open.
Yeah, you love to be warm.
I know. I'm like so like. It's funny because I have so much fire, but in my life, my present constitution, it's like a little cold. So I'm like always trying to just get back to like, all right, you're a fire person. Let's let it shine.
You know, that reminds me of Calcifer. I don't know if you're familiar with Hayao Miyazaki.
Oh yeah, totally.
And Calcifer and
so
House of
cute,
Castle,
right?
Yeah.
It's such a. I feel like that's like a really good representation of like fire, because I think fire gets kind of a bad rap. I mean, just over here too, like in California, we're just dealing with all the forest fires and stuff, and it's like fire is supposed to play a positive role in the landscape if it's, you know, treated with respect, just like Calcifer.
If you could give an example of a time in your life where it was guts versus logic and you went with your gut.
Well, I think going with your gut is the most logical option. I don't know. Let's see if I can think of a real answer for that one. You know, maybe I'm not a very logical person. You know, I think I am, like, when it comes to, like, getting down to be, like, when I'm on someone's pulse and I'm like, all right, this is telling me it could be this way, it could be that way. But I don't know, like, I really just, I feel like I really just gravitate more to being on, like, the side of the absurd. And, like, just, like, entertaining absurdity is, I think, what's really allowed me to be me.
That's the name of the episode, Entertaining Absurdity. That's good. there's one thing I'm really interested in knowing, though. How have you seen this translate into a business? Like, business-wise, like, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? How does that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
I don't know. You tell me. It just works. It's just like people need the medicine, and then I show up for them. And then they show up for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, we just have agreements, and, like, it's really exciting to see what happens when people start working this stuff. Guts and Glory signing off. This is Winky Moon.
This was Entertaining the Absurdity with Winky Moon. Refer to the show notes to further get to know our guest. Share your thoughts and show us some love by subscribing or get in touch to be featured on the podcast. Released every other Monday. Thanks for lending us an ear. Passing on the mic.